Welcome, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. So does anybody have any questions? Any particular thing that we'd like to cover today?
Oh, actually, I have a question that I want to join the two data set, like about companies data and members data. And
Okay.
members data, for the positions of members, there are two different company IDs. One is member selected company ID, and another is suggested something's company ID.
Yes.
And to join two data set, what should we use among that between two?
Let me see. I would join on the suggested company ID. Since that is sort of what we would infer. That would be kind of like LinkedIn's standardized sort of result. Is there something specific that you're looking to do? What is the reason for the join, I guess?
I mean, we want to detect the labor flow between companies.
Okay.
Yes, so to do that, and in the future, we want to integrate the company data with those kind of labor flows. So yeah, that's why I use it.
Okay. Yeah, I would say use a suggested company. And have you looked at the data? Have you seen how many records actually have an ID there?
I can't remember actually. Another member in our team to do that, but in company data there are 3 million, 4 million companies.
Sure. I meant in profiles. How many profiles actually have an actual company ID in the position?
I'm not sure. I didn't check it actually.
Yeah, because it could be a factor of two things. One, people not selecting necessarily the company from the drop-down when they were entering position, for example. But it could also be that LinkedIn just simply doesn't have that company in its databases yet as well, right? So there will be some companies that are kind of that you can't match because of that situation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Let me know if let me or your mentor know if you think there are other that the data is not good enough for you to do your work, and then we'll try to see if there's another data set that might be more useful.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
Okay. See, a few more other folks have joined us. Ian or Azada, do you have any questions? Feel free to use chat or something. Last three questions on the list. Is that on the FAQ, I'm guessing, right, Azada?
Yeah.
Okay, Koiki. Let's see. I'm going to just pull up the economic graph challenge FAQ, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. That's the recording. There we go. EGC, questions and answers. Let me start sharing my screen so that we can get into more interactive mode here. Pardon the piano, by the way, that's my son practicing.
Yeah, okay.
I had to conduct this one from home today. Let's see. Share my screen. Google Chrome. Okay, can everybody see the question and answer sheet?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So first question is, which of the attributes we should use from profile position data? So, okay, so that already answered that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. What I'm saying is that suggested company ID might be present more frequently. Although the member company ID, if present, is the member self-reported data. So I would, on the type of research you're trying to do. And I think we also might have a standardized position data set as well. That if this data proves to be sort of unreliable, we can see if we can get that standardized position data onto the cluster as well.
Oh, great, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, great. Okay.
And I think everybody else can as well.
There you are. I think the so in company data, so we have a company ID there, and as far as I check, the number of companies in company data is much more than number of companies that we obtain from member data.
Okay.
So is it like something? Is it because some companies doesn't have any member, so they just have profile or something like that? Do you guys face?
Yeah. So I know that we've actively been looking to expand the number of companies we have on LinkedIn. Okay. So some of that, some of that data is sort of companies that we know exist, but might not have, nobody might have associated their positions with them, right? Okay. Another thing that you might be seeing is that, members are just not, if you're looking at the member selected company ID, it's, that field might not have might not be available as frequently as the suggested company ID. So
okay.
I would be interested in looking at the suggested company ID and see how many uniques are there to see if that's a bigger sort of volume than the member selected company ID. That's primarily a hunch.
Okay, so is it the case that maybe member pick some IDs and the company suggests the company ID is basically going to be similar to the ID that existed in company data?
Yeah, so I would, if you look at it, I'm going to say that you will likely see a lot of situations where these two are identical, right? So it's something where we suggested an ID and a drop down, from a member experience. He suggested ID from the drop down, and the member just selected a company that was suggested, right? So that might very well be the case.
Okay.
Okay, next question. Can we check the speed of pig scripts? So you can see how fast your
The whole thing is, yeah, at the end
pig,
when it's run.
right. You can also see how each of the parts are running. So when you kick off a pig job, for example, right? Let me, I guess, maybe a quick demo here. Let me see. Let me stop sharing just my desktop, and I can share the whole desktop, and then kill a bunch of these tabs. So not necessarily relevant. So let me share. Here we go. Let me share the terminal, right? So I am on the cluster here. So I have a bunch of scripts here that I've sort of worked with before, and some of these are longer running than others, right? Let me do the. I'm going to kick off the helping skills pig job. Okay, so that's going to kick off all these sort of. It's going to tell me what's going on and set up the messages. And notice here that it's actually creating a jar, right? So this, depending on complexity of your job, your pig script might turn into multiple MapReduce jobs, right? So every time you see this creating jar and job file ID, soon after you will see. Oh, I have an error here. So let me see. I have another script there. Info. So here we go. So I have another job. This is also equal in complexity and actually registers a UDF file, so sort of a long-running process. So every time you get one of the messages regarding the job being created, you'll have a job tracking URL. So there's a job tracking URL for each one of these, right?
Yep.
So I'll just drop this into my sharing and share my Chrome window again. So here is this sort of long-running job. Now what it's doing is reading all of profile data. So that's sort of thousands of Avro files, right?
Sorry, I don't see the screen. If you are sharing it, I just see one screen that you're running like list ls. So
okay, so let's see. So you're not seeing sort of a MapReduce job page. You're not seeing a browser window.
No.
Okay, let me try.
All I see is like a terminal, and it's just like typed like ls in it. Oh, okay, now I see your Hadoop page.
Perfect, right. So this page is telling me how long it's taking for this particular script to run, right? Okay. And you can see this is going to be an expensive script because it has a ton of input. So it's taking in something like order of 1,200 files, right? This is all of the identity data set.
Yep.
And you can kind of get a sense, these scripts will generally run depending on the load of the cluster. But when there isn't a resource limitation on the cluster, these scripts will run sort of in predictable time periods. So between each run, assuming you're not modifying the script too much, you'll get just about the same runtime and the same data set. So it really depends on how much data you're reading in and how quickly you're sort of filtering that data out. And you can use, for every job that for every MapReduce job that your pig script is compiled down into, you'll get one of these application tracking views, and then you can track the individual job and see how long it takes to run. And, it gives you kind of a granularity for, then you can actually look at all the ones that succeeded And you can see basically how long each individual map task took, right? So you see all of these are running on the order of 45 seconds, right? And you have like sort of a long history, and you can see it. Now, what to look for here, if you are looking at the map tasks, and you notice that you're in a situation where, you know, you have one running for a long time, there might be a skew in your data where one mapper or one reducer is getting a ton of data to process. So that's basically going to be the long running one in your process. That's going to be the one that's sort of going to delay your job, and you can sort of adjust according to that. Now I want to see if there's a way. Not appear to be that this interface has a way to look at historical jobs. It might be something that we can add to the make available so that everybody can see historically how long their scripts have been running. I'll take a look and I can follow up with the team. So. Is it more efficient to call UDF function on all data, or I guess, or calling it in the for loop for a chunk? Okay, so let me see if I understand this question correctly. Is it more efficient to group the data first and then call a UDF function with a group versus applying the UDF function on sort of individual records, right? That's what we're asking
exactly,
here.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
All right, so
I first basically like group the data, and then like basically for each item in the data, I'm like thinking of like first do my processes, like do sort and such, and at the end call the UDF function. Or is it good to keep that like for each basically record, as you said?
So there's a couple of questions that might make a difference here. So the first question is, are you writing, what language are you using to write the UDF?
Python.
Python, okay. So for Python, there's a bit of a limitation, right? The Java UDF API are a little more expressive, and they let you write different types of UDF. So that you can let you write sort of like a basic UDF that's a function. You give it a value, return, you're done, right? It also lets you implement what's called like algebraic functions. So the functions that can sort of keep an intermediate state, right? And then you can combine different intermediate states and have a final result that was built from chunking the inputs, right? So that's kind of like how the sum function is implemented, right? The sum function runs on like subgroups and then gets aggregated again, and the final results are all those combinations. And there's another implementation which also helps manage memory. So the trade-off here will really be on how well how much data you're going to put in a group. If you can create a giant group, then the UDF might fail because it might run out of memory. Like it won't be able to keep all that data. And assuming you're also keeping some internal state, maybe, right? You might have a data structure building it up. You might actually run out of memory. So it's not necessarily about efficiency. It's more about memory management. Yeah. So I think the sort of an efficient strategy is to try to only specify the fields that you'll need, right? So don't project all the fields from the profile, for example. Just get the fields that you need to do your analysis, right? So that's one. So it means there's less data being pushed around. And then the second thing is filter out data early. So if some records you don't need, so for example, if you're focusing just on, the United States, right, as an area for your study, then you want to filter only members that are United States. So it's going to reduce your data set from something like 350 million to 100 million, right? So those are the things that are going to make your make a big difference, right? Like a bigger difference than the UDF application.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and it's also, I would err on the side of simplicity. So, a UDF that just takes a simple input and provides a simple output, you don't have any uncertainty in how to troubleshoot that, right? Like that's going to be a pretty simple then you read the code, understand how to write and write it out. Whereas, since Python does not have sort of, since a Python IDE won't help you based on the type of data you are getting in, and you can't figure out from it like, oh, I'm getting, when you group something, what that turns out to be is basically a bag of tuples inside. So to decipher that data structure is non-trivial. So a lot of your code becomes managing those bits, right? And that becomes a little bit challenging to test and get done right. So I would err on the side of simplicity, because Pig will.
There are like things with the output too. Like with the output, we need to make sure to return something that is basically going to be something that we can use, whether it's a tuple or it's a bag.
Yep. Yeah, that's also very important. That's a good point. And then defining the output schema for Python UDFs is also non-trivial. It's even more challenging when you're writing a Java UDF because you have to put all the structure in, but getting that interaction right with Python is also tricky. So I would err on the side of simple UDFs.
That's like actually like so far our team, whatever we're trying, like this is the part that is really like delayed us. Like we have been trying to figure out how to like what data type to do, and the problem is also it's not like easy to debug. So we cannot. I mean, at least we cannot even like print in the Python part and see what's happening.
So so the printed output will go to the logs that you can see through your. So you won't see them. You won't see them here. You won't see them on this screen, right? But you will see them on the jobs log server, right? So you would see it here, right? Like you click through the tab here. This is where you would see the output of the UDF, right? It will be, well, okay, so this job is done, so container's gone, but you would see it on the logs in this API, right? So this is where you would see it. You wouldn't see it, and you can see full logs here. You can see the printouts and all that's happening. You wouldn't be able to see it in your console. They won't be there.
Okay. Thank you. Great.
Yep. A large input. Pause in.
There are also different way to, at least for Python, that as far as I check, like to write UDF.
No, there's only one way.
There's like this blog post that I saw, and they suggest three-way. One was like with output schema. The other one, she wasn't defining like an output schema, but it didn't work for me. So I was like, but like the thing that we are doing now, it's working. I thought like we can use embedded pig too to write UDF, like because like in embedded pig we can just write like it's like a Python script, and there we can just define the UDF.
Yeah.
I don't know like what's the benefit or what's the major difference.
So I think embedded pig is like a Python library, right?
Yeah, I think it's a library, but you just
Yeah.
basically Python and then write pig inside Python. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we can look into that and see how we can do that. So what that will actually be more like is, you know, you would write a Python script to actually orchestrate your entire pig flow, right? So you would write a Python script that would then go ahead and execute the pig jobs, and you can tie them all together in your Python code, right? And if that would be useful, then we can definitely investigate it. Right. I don't know what kind of Python library management we have installed on the gateway machine. So we need to see how we would go about installing this particular version on the gateway machine, but I think it might be viable. If you find it useful, we can look into it.
I mean, I don't know what's the benefit of each, so like, but
I think it's just a matter of orchestrating your jobs.
To do it. Okay, there's no particular. Thank you.
Looks like we got a question in chat, so let me look at that next. Okay.
Oh,
you shared an example. Got it. Transitive closure in pig. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, that's very nice post, actually.
Got it. So this is just.
Run it, so I'm not sure.
Got it. So those methods here that are not so for example, it would be sort of, you know, you can sort a bag in pig, right? So trying to sort a bag in Python is sort of a, you know, might be too much work, right? A pig has a sort function that's built in that's relatively simple. Yeah, so this looks like it's using the library that lets you kick off pig jobs from Python script, which might be useful to help you orchestrate your flows. And if your flows get complex, that this might be a useful tool. Cool. Does anybody else have a question for us to take a look?
I have some questions about Spark, but I'm not sure whether I should just wait for the Spark training workshop.
Yes, do go ahead. I think it's coming up. Is it later today?
Yeah, I think it's in half an hour.
Yeah, so Siegfried will walk everybody through sort of getting set up, and he's been cranking away at it for quite a bit longer than I have, so he will be able to speak about it with more confidence and competence.
All right.
Yeah, so any other pig or data related questions I can be helpful with today?
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Nikolai?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have a question about the jobs database. So there was going to be a derived database which would have the estimated salaries for the jobs. So is it already in the derived database? Is there some place in the derived databases where I can look for the estimated salaries of the jobs?
So let's see. Estimated salaries of the jobs. What we have in our data dictionary. Did you take a look at see if it's in our existing data dictionary?
No, I don't think so. I took a look at it, I think around a couple of days ago, so it wasn't there then. Maybe I'll take a look again. But this was basically something that Daniel discussed when he was presenting the data that would be available, and basically estimated salary would be something that would be very helpful for a project.
All right, so let's take a look at what's in our data set and explore a little bit here. Let's see. So we have a jobs, so the data set. So we're going to cd into data, and here we have derived in databases. So let's cd into derived. So let's see. Skills, members, connection strength, endorsements. So might not be here yet. Let's see. Databases. All right, so we just have jobs. Let's load jobs and explore that a little bit.
So the jobs database has a salary field, but that is usually not populated. It's just empty for almost all jobs. I think there was some talk of getting some estimated salary. I'm not sure, by estimating it from Glassdoor or some other external sources.
So your question is if that data is available? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Like if any kind of salary data is available.
Got it. So have you sort of reached out to your mentor to sort of request that information be added?
Yeah, so I did that today morning. So I think he'll get back to you in the mentors meeting again. But I wasn't sure where I should look. Maybe it was already added or it was.
No. So whenever a new data set will be added, we will announce it to the entire group, explaining where it is and how to access it.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
I don't think so it's still there yet, but when it comes, I think I'll get a mail.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks.
I'm kind of curious about jobs. Okay, so describe jobs. Man, that's a lot of fields. Height, salary, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Okay. So there's a salary field, but you say that field is generally empty.
Yes, yeah.
Got it. Okay. I guess that makes sense. So yeah, so it's probably not available yet. Okay. Cool. All right. Okay. Other questions? Is there something that you're having trouble doing? Is there a bit of pig that you'd want me to take a look at or want to discuss with a group that might be helpful to help you get past the hurdle or something? Well, have folks looked at DataFoo?
DataFoo, no.
I've scanned it, but I haven't like dug into it.
So DataFoo is now an Apache incubator project that it's a set of functions that are UDFs that LinkedIn has implemented and open sourced. And I will give a more sort of detailed dive on it next Wednesday. But it has some functions that might be useful. It has some statistics functions to let you get the median, variance, and quantiles. And it has some other useful things for the purposes of kind of getting your data set done. So I will be giving a more deep dive thing on that. But if somebody's trying to use it and having trouble now, I can help with that as well.
Can I ask something?
Sure, of course.
When I try to use a sample rather than limit to see some part of data, it takes a lot of time, much longer time. Is it usual? I mean,
sure. So what value for sample are you using? What value are you using?
I mean, to see some part of the result, like check the accuracy or it works well.
Got it. So
yeah. To dump something, yeah.
Right. So how, what is the actual value that you're inputting? Like 0.1, 0.5?
Just 0.001 or 0001 or something.
Yeah, like really a tiny amount, right?
Yeah.
And so I think in principle the difference is that limit just gives you the first n it sees, right? So it actually has to read through way fewer records to give you the result.
Yeah.
While sample actually tries to do a streaming sample of the data set. So it actually needs to go through the entire data set before it can give you the result.
Okay.
Right? So that's sort of the trade-off there. It will, limit is just going to be fast, but you're getting the first n records that it arbitrarily reads from your source, and sample will actually go for the entire data source and just return, basically roll a die or whatever analogy you want to say for randomly selects some records from the data set, and that would account for the difference in performance.
So is it there any way to see the last n result rather than first n result?
How would you determine the order?
I don't know. I just applied flatten or something, so maybe it is.
No. What I mean is, how would you order your records so you know where the start and end is? So it's not arbitrary. I would say you need to go ahead and order by. That will get your record sorted, right? And then you can order by ascending and descending, and that will give you the you will change the direction of your data, and then you can do top from there, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got a sense. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I did it, because I needed to look at some. I did a grouping, and based on that grouping, the data that I had, I needed to look at just some top records, right?
Yeah.
So that's why what I would do is I would say I would order it by a counter. Let's say I was relying on a counter, and then I would do order by this counter descending, and then I would do top 10, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I got it.
Sure. Looks I have a few questions on chat. Let me jump over to that. Okay. So is this an example?
The things and yeah, so basically the thing that is displayed, which is all nonsensical, are some of the example job descriptions that I could see when I did skills and jobs. But ultimately, the things in the brackets are job descriptions, and I basically limited it to the first 1,000, and am still seeing a lot of such job descriptions that don't really make sense. So, is there a way to filter out these? Like, is there a flag somewhere which tells? I'm guessing these were all created for testing purposes. So,
Yeah,
is there a
almost
flag somewhere
certainly.
that?
Let's see. Let's look at the. I'm looking at the data dictionary. I'm not entirely familiar with the data set, but we could definitely figure out um, if there's a way to filter out jobs that are.
I think so. I used the
So,
LinkedIn exclusive.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so that basically the y is equal to the LinkedIn test jobs and as n is equal to the actual jobs. But even in the actual jobs, I'm seeing a lot of ASDF or test or things like that, things that have been entered in haste.
And, and
So
have you
LinkedIn
tried?
exclusive is also
Got it. And have you tried filtering by the state? So
no, I haven't.
things that are draft, might be junk, right? While things that are
Okay,
listed,
okay,
things that will
yes,
actually
yes.
show up on the site, so that's going to be a little bit more visible, right? So those are likely to be more higher quality. Uh,
So listed and closed are things that have been on the front end of LinkedIn jobs,
I think so. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Okay. I'll do that. I'll try that. I think that should solve the problem. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. And another thing I'm trying to see if there might be something else that we might be able to filter for that might be useful. Hmm. Let's see. Trying to industry would not be good. Yeah, I would say those are probably a good starting set to filter by.
Yeah, I'll try that. I think that should probably work. So
Yep. Yeah. If it doesn't, we can see if there's we can reach out to the jobs team and see what else we can do. See if
sure.
there's
Thanks.
another data set we can pull in. Okay. So can we filter out poor jobs? Oh, well, not poor jobs or fake jobs. Okay. So basically, to summarize that, there are two things: fields and jobs data might be helpful. So the state and the LinkedIn exclusive. So filter jobs by state equals L or state equals closed. Let's see. Um, and inclusive equals N. Okay, so that's sort of a query that will get us where we're going, I think. Okay. We can actually try that query out and see what that does for us, right? Does anybody else have questions, or kind of go ahead and experiment with this filter to see what it gets us? Okay, so it sounds like just filtering experiment to see. So let's see what this gets us, right? So clean jobs equal jobs by state for state equals and something exclusive. That's too long to type. Okay. Yes. No. Okay, so now we need to get some clean descriptions equals for each clean jobs generate. Let's see, what is it called? Is it job function, postal code?
It's description basically.
Is it actually description?
Yeah.
I don't. Okay. Description / definition. Okay. Nope, not description. Let's see.
It's all in caps, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yep. Okay. So now we have clean descriptions, and we'll do limit to just selection of 20, so that we have a quick things. Clean descriptions to 20. Question. Okay. I don't remember the syntax for limit. Let's see. This is a very useful resource as a documentation here. I use it all the time. Limit alias n. Okay. So. Okay, so I'm just going to dump our small sample and see where that gets us. So this should be a pretty straightforward job. It's just, I think it might be just a single job, because all it does is filters and then execute a limit on it and projects only. So I wanted to, let's see, where is this? So you see right here, this line right here, you see all those dollar signs? Those are all the fields that Pig figured out we don't need, so it dumped them. So what that means is, while it's still going to read all the data, it's not going to push all that data across once it's read it. So that's going to be a huge savings, right? Because there's a lot of data fields and a lot of stuff that's not necessary for this particular query. So if you can tighten your projections or tighten the type of fields you're going to use in the analysis, that's going to have a positive impact on the performance of the job itself. On the other hand, if you get these jobs that are really performing really poorly, you don't have understanding of what's going on, reach out to your mentor, and we'll be able to kind of try it out. We have a very helpful tool internally called Dr. Elephant that actually lets us know, what the performance issues with our jobs are, and it's really useful for this kind of analysis to see what the problem is. Okay, so this is running relatively quickly. Okay, so while this is running, is there another question that somebody might have? We have about 5 more minutes in today's session. Okay, so these don't.
Just out of curiosity, since these jobs are fairly heavy, are we limited in the number of jobs we can run per day?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a quote, but you do remember that we're all sharing the same cluster. And while there are like sort of limitations on how much resources a particular job can take, there's probably enough researchers that we can tie up the grid. Now, your jobs won't fail; they'll just run relatively slowly.
Okay.
Yeah. So even looking at these descriptions, these don't look very good, right? Front desk, intern, custodian, responsible for top accounts. Like, it's almost looking like some of these are truncated or something, or not yet published. So I'm going to reach out and see if there are other filters we can put on this data to get quality jobs.
That would be awesome. That would be great. Yeah, that would basically save us a lot of time.
Sure. Yep. We'll reach out. So we will do that. Okay. Disappointing, but let's see. Okay. Thank you, Ramana. That'd be very useful. Cool. All right. Any other questions? On the chat or over the phone? Oh, I look so spooky. Okay. In that case, we can cut it 5 minutes short, and then everybody can get prepared for Creed's talk, and he's going to introduce you to Spark and all the really neat things you can do with it. I would actually watch it myself, but I have another meeting at the same time. Great speaking to everybody.
I just remembered. I have a quick question. Are there any plans to allow Git to access like GitHub for repos? Or is that on the gateway, or is that just not going to happen?
So I would. I don't know if Git is installed in the gateway. So there isn't.
It is. It is, but it can't access any
external. Right. Well, so each one of the participants has a home directory, right? And you can, Git can work on a sort of file system level, right? So if you create a Git directory in your file system, your teammate can, given permissions to access that directory, can clone that directory into their directory, right? So it's not distributed in the sense that it's in the central repository, but you could share code that way. right? Like a Git remote that you add does not need to be a Git remote that's on a different server or is hosted via a Git protocol.
Okay.
But I will follow up because it is becoming, as folks are starting to write some scripts that they'd like to share. This is becoming a bit of a problem. With my team, for example, I use Google Docs, and I just put up the pig scripts that I've created or the UDFs that I've written in the Google Docs folder. Yeah, but I can ask. I can follow up to see if we can get some kind of source code management infrastructure in place. Cool. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today, and enjoy your session with Siegfried.
Thank you, Nikolai.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.